So this video is going to have a little bit of a different tone than the others. Now, before I begin, I am going to say that I don't want to gain subscribers from this video. This video is mainly just to put my thoughts out there, maybe even like help someone else that's out there. That's it. If you guys are considering subscribing, please watch my other videos and then decide. And this audio is going to have hardly any editing, not like the ones that I usually do. Now, like many others, I was also devastated, and I've recently hit an art block of sorts, so I didn't really have the energy to draw anything, especially with such a blow like this one. But I am a builder, so I decided to do what I could. Now, I'm pretty sure that everyone already knows what happened. Technoblade was diagnosed with cancer a little bit around a year ago, which came very devastatingly to quite a lot of people in his audience. A lot of people having concern and fear, especially since a lot of people themselves have already lost someone to cancer, me included. I lost 3 people to cancer myself. And Technoblade, of course, knew that this kind of thing would happen and tried to make light of the situation as he usually did. Which, even right now, is still pretty funny, not gonna lie. His joke about doing a hand reveal and there being nothing, of course. And it's very clear that that was Technoblade's goal. It was to, kinda bring some easiness to such a very uneasy and dark situation. And it's that kind of personality that drew a lot of people to him in the first place. He had such a unique way of delivering his comedy. He's been around for quite a while. Possibly one of the most genuine content creators out there, especially in the MCYT. One of the most notable things being the potato war, and of course his catchphrase, Technoblade never dies. This of course being correlated to the way that he played, which in many cases were very advanced, very smart to a lot of people, and of course his outstanding luck at some points. Now, while he kept his family life very private for obvious reasons, he did have siblings and of course a very supportive pair of guardians. He kept most things about his personal life very private, which is very respectable. Especially in a day and age where a lot of people are starting to hound others for their personal information on the internet for some reason. And while a lot of people are mainly going to remember him for his Minecraft's influence, he of course had a very real impact on the lives of people around him. He was a friend to many, such as, Tommy Innit, Wilbur, as well as many other content creators. He was a well brought up son to his family. And considering the kind of life that he led up till now, it's no wonder that a lot of people are very devastated, such as myself. Heck, I even cried. I was on voice call when I found out, and then a lot of my DMs started getting flooded, which I'm pretty sure a lot of other people experienced themselves, as well as a bunch of other servers starting to talk about it themselves. He was even very supportive to his fellow creators, which is something that I personally admired, especially since a lot of people could easily get jealous about another person's success, or could just be downright bitter towards other people in general. Being respectable to other people in your field, basically, is a very respectable move. And now that we've talked about the kind of person he was and why him passing away was such a big thing to a lot of people, I am now going to get on to my own personal thoughts. Now, Technoblade I actually didn't know too much about until I heard about it from another person. And that was because a friend had come up to me and told me that, I reminded them a lot about him. Now, of course, I thought that was bullshit at first, so I was like, okay, let me see who this is, see how legit this is, And I wound up absolutely loving the guy. I loved his humor. I loved the fact that, despite the fact that he had such a monotone voice, he was still able to create a lot of emotion with his word choices and, of course, the way he presents his videos. And as I started to watch him a little bit more, I started to respect him more and more. And of course, eventually I saw a tweet where he was commenting on people cosplaying as him, and once I found out that, he was alright with it, I actually got together a cosplay myself, and even wore it to high school a few times. I met a group of friends who were also very invested in Technoblade and the Dream SMP in general. And as cliche as it sounds, he really did open my eyes to different ways of playing Minecraft, since before I even found out about him, previously I had been part of the more OG MCYT fandom, such as Dan TDM, Captain Sparkles, people like that. Now, while I already had appreciations for pigs, he was another main reason why I, began to appreciate them more. I myself was also very inspired by him, not in terms of how I form my content. This has always been a thing with other channels that I've made that are now deleted and purged in terms for, rebranding and whatnot. This channel is not the first one that I've attempted. It's one of many. But he actually inspired me to, look on the more brighter side of things, to not be so uptight. He really made a big impact on my mindset, especially in such a age range where my mental health wasn't exactly the best. Especially since, being in that circle kind of helped me find other people that I could finally relate to, which was really hard for me as a person. Whenever I got upset, I would sometimes watch his videos or some clips that other people have made of him. So when I had originally found out that he had cancer, my first thought, of course, was, is this going to be like Edward Gold? And by that I mean, is he going to be this respectable icon that a lot of people really loved? That a lot of people were so positive that he'd, beat cancer, only to just randomly and abruptly succumb to such things. Now, normally when I make observations like this, usually I'm right, which terrified me at the time. I had hoped with all my heart that I was wrong. And I remember talking about it with healthily at the time, which I'm not sure if it remembers that conversation, but I had said that if he makes it to age 25, he'll likely be fine. But unfortunately, much like Edward Gould, he had died at the age of 23. And because of this assumption that I had already concluded and the fact that I was right, it makes me even more disheartened about that Hypixel video I posted not too long ago. In which, I thought it was funny at the time, breaking the cycle of, Technoblade never dies with the player who had the skin on, but I feel like I unintentionally foreshadowed something. Obviously, that's not the most scientific or logical analysis that I've ever made, especially considering that the gift of prophecy from Apollo is mostly a joke that I've seen on Tumblr every now and then, and of course, stuff that, happens in, mythology and such. And I do acknowledge that right now I'm technically in the stages of grief, and I am only making that thought because of, devastation. I do acknowledge that. It's just kind of a stage that I have to get through myself. But considering that a lot of other things that I've said in the past have also come true, of course that only gives me some evidence in my little brain right now, my little devastated, depressed brain right now. Despite the fact that it's probably just a tragic coincidence. But for right now I do carry some guilt, As for a lot of people around me when it happened, like I said earlier, my DM started getting flooded since I had surrounded myself with a lot of people who had watched Technoblade or were a fan of them themselves. In fact, even a server that I was moderating currently had started talking about it. And it was very devastating because, after the update video that he had given, and everything else after, everyone thought that he was getting better. Of course, I realize now that he was trying not to, worry everyone, I suppose. Which is very common for famous people who get cancer. Which brings up the question, how do you cope with such a sudden loss? To some, it may seem very ignorant, it may seem very stupid to grieve over somebody that you didn't know personally. However, how a content creator correlates with their audience solely depends on impact, and a lot of content creators who have positive impacts on other people, their absence will be missed to a lot of people, especially somebody who has been around as long as Technoblade to build people's childhoods, basically. And like I said, I already lost somebody to cancer 3 times. Real people that I've known. But I can confidently say that a lot of people feel very close to the content creators that they adore, such as myself. So I'm now going to help give tips on, to cope. Especially since a lot of the fan base is, very young, they might not know entirely how to deal with such a thing. Which I was in a spot myself. Now, one of the major things that when it comes to coping with somebody else's death is to talk with other people about positive memories that you have of them. This can be anywhere from like the content that he made or like the kind of things that made you laugh and, his impact on other people. And of course, the kind of legacy that they would want to be remembered for. Technoblade in particular has made special note in the past about the fact that he would rather people, to laugh with his memories and stuff, kind of keep that positive aura around him, which undoubtedly will be hard to do in a while. I mean, even myself. And if you don't have somebody else to talk to with this, I recommend writing it down to kind of remember yourself, as you're writing along. Get your thoughts out, it's very important to vent in a type of situation like this. And if you don't want to do it to another person, that's fine. Just write it down, fold it up, and then tuck it away. This, of course, is a very healthy way to cope for people who don't have other people that they can exactly talk to about with stuff like this. The next thing is gonna sound really cliche, I do acknowledge that, but it definitely does help. Make sure that you are taking care of yourself. And I mean that in the most loving way possible. Stuff like this will have a severe mental impact on people, and you can't mentally get better if you're not physically taking care of yourself. So make sure you're drinking water, eating healthy, getting enough sleep, stuff like that. It sounds like a lot, but I promise you, it makes all the steps of coping so much better. This next one is something to keep in mind. Think in circles and not in lines. What this means is that if in the future you find yourself getting better about the thought, but then starting to get really sad again, this is basically a side effect of healing. You're gonna have these ups and downs. It doesn't mean that you're relapsing, it doesn't mean that you're getting worse. It's perfectly natural and nothing to beat yourself up about. Even if it feels like such a silly thing to be upset about, all the things I said prior is confirmation for you, the viewer, that your thoughts are rational. And it's completely normal to fall into this circle of feeling better and then feeling worse. It's how healing works, and it's completely normal and natural. You're doing okay and you're doing your best. Another major thing that I don't see people talking about when it comes to this type of topic is don't bottle up your feelings. Now that in itself is very common, however this next part I don't see people going into detail about. An important thing to realize is that when it comes to grief, embracing it is a very healthy way of getting over it rather than trying to shove all those thoughts away. It's okay to embrace what you lost and embrace that grief and get your emotions out, no matter how long it may take. I can't emphasize this enough. And this is because it can help you mentally reflect on what matters most in your life. This is a classic yet somewhat not explored method of coping with your grief. It's basically changing the way that you face grief in a situation like this in a healthy and collected manner and kind of get your thoughts organized and then gradually recover from such things. Now, all this shares another thing, and that's be kind to yourself. It's okay if you constantly get upset about this. It's okay, your feelings matter, and of course, your feelings are rational. Because as I mentioned before, content creators can have a very real impact on people, and their disappearance and or death can be felt with tens of thousands of millions of people. This can also create a sense of not being alone, which is very important. Misery loves company, as they say. It is very important to accept what happened and gradually help yourself and other people heal from such things. And it's completely normal to correlate this with other people that you've lost in life to cancer, which can be very upsetting. Now, all this is a big process and it will take a lot of practice. Light-hearted jokes will also help you cope as long as they're not too extreme, per se. In the early stages of grief or in long-term depression, making extreme jokes about suicide, killing, or people dying from such extreme cases can be very harmful to your subconscious mental health. Now, this all will be a very big process, and it's okay to go at your own pace. There's no rush to get better. You need to go all at your own pace, and definitely don't rush other people to get over something. And I wish you luck on your journey of healing as I will begin my own. And I will put a disclaimer that I am not a therapist, I'm just telling you from my own experience as well as what therapists have told me. But the most important thing to remember in all this is Technoblade Never Dies has become more metaphorical than, literal, as a lot of people have taken it in the past. While he may have been laid to rest for a very long eternity now, memories will keep him alive. This can be through art, cosplay, words, for you watching his videos, and, of course, acknowledging the impact that he's had on a lot of people as well as yourself. Also, remain respectful and realize that above all, he was a real person, he was a family member to his own family, and he was really close friends to a lot of people that he worked with. This is the end of the video. I'm not going to be doing any plugins because I feel like it's not appropriate for this situation. Content will go back to normal after this, most likely. I won't be streaming for a little bit myself. And remember that you are loved, and good luck to all of you.